One man made a maximum break in 5 minutes and 8 seconds. Another time he played left-handed just to prove a point. And in one match, he walked out mid-frame because he was bored. This isn't just talent. This is Ronnie O'Sullivan, the most lethal player snooker has ever seen. The Rocket doesn't just play with his right hand, he switches to his left whenever it's convenient, and he's equally deadly with both. Most professionals spend their entire careers perfecting one stance, one cue action, one way of seeing angles. Ronnie mastered two. Watch footage from the 1996 World Championship. He's potting long reds left-handed that most players couldn't make with their dominant hand, and he's doing it like he's having a laugh down the local club. Referee Len Ganley once said watching Ronnie switch hands mid-break was like watching someone cheat, except it was completely legal. The psychological effect on opponents was devastating. They'd spend the entire match wondering which version of Ronnie they were facing, and the answer was always both simultaneously, and you can't handle either one. "5 minutes and 8 seconds. At first, they clocked it as 5 minutes and 20 seconds. But after re-watching the tape, they discovered it was actually 5 minutes and 8 seconds. And that's now the official time, recognised by both World Snooker and Guinness World Records. That's all it took Ronnie to compile a 147 break at the 1997 World Championship, and that record still stands today. To understand how insane this is, most professionals take 20 minutes or more for a maximum. Ronnie was potting balls before his opponent could even sit down properly. 15 reds, 15 blacks, all 6 colours, and he barely looked like he was concentrating. The BBC commentary team could barely keep up, stumbling over words as ball after ball disappeared. What makes this different from other fast breaks is the complete absence of safety. Ronnie never once played for position in a defensive way. Every shot was an attack, every pot left the cue ball exactly where he wanted it, and the crowd at the Crucible sat in stunned silence, watching history happen at warp speed. That break didn't just win him a frame, it announced that snooker had a new standard and everyone else was playing catch-up. UK Championship 2006 match against Stephen Hendry. Ronnie's cruising, making centuries like he's ordering pints. Then suddenly, mid-match, he tells the referee he wants to withdraw because the table's playing too easy and it's disrespectful to the game. He actually walked up to the ref and said the tournament wasn't worthy of his presence because there wasn't enough challenge. Hendry's standing there, 7-time world champion, being told he's not worth Ronnie's time. The referees had to talk Ronnie into continuing, and he only agreed after making his point. Most players would kill for an easy table. Free money, easy frames, straightforward path to victory. Ronnie found it boring and nearly threw away thousands in prize money because his standards were higher than the tournament organisers. That's not just confidence. That's a man who genuinely can't be bothered unless he's being tested, and who treats snooker like an art form that he won't lower his standards for under any circumstances. (1992). Ronnie's father, Ronnie Sr., is sentenced to life for murder. Ronnie Jr. is 16 years old, already a professional, and suddenly his whole world collapses. Most players would crumble, give up the game, disappear from the circuit, let the pressure destroy them. Ronnie got angry, and he channeled that fury into the most aggressive snooker anyone had ever seen. Watch his matches from 1993 onwards. Every pot is hit with violence. Every safety is played with venom. Every victory is a middle finger to everyone who expected him to fail. He won his first UK championship in 1993, 1 year after his father went to prison, playing with a barely controlled rage that terrified opponents. The commentators kept saying he was unfocused and emotional, but what they missed was that Ronnie had found a way to turn trauma into fuel. Every frame he won was proof he wouldn't be broken, and every tournament victory was him screaming that he'd survived despite everything trying to destroy him. Ronnie didn't just study Steve Davis and Stephen Hendry when they won, he studied them when they lost, when they cracked under pressure, when their strategies failed. He'd watch matches where Davis's safety play backfired, where Hendry's aggression left him vulnerable, and he'd mentally catalogue every weakness. Then he built a game that had Davis's safety awareness without the passivity, Hendry's ruthlessness without the recklessness. In the 1990s, young professionals were trying to copy their heroes' strengths. Ronnie was learning from their failures, working out where the previous generation's approach fell short. By the time he faced them, he knew their patterns better than they did. The 2002 World Championship match against Hendry was the proof. Ronnie dismantled him 17-13, and Hendry later admitted he felt like Ronnie had been reading his mind. That wasn't mind reading. That was a decade of homework finally paying off against the man who dominated the sport. While other professionals practice 4 hours a day, Ronnie's been known to practice 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours straight without stopping. His father built him a snooker table at home when he was 7, and Ronnie would play until his hands bled and his eyes couldn't focus anymore. Even now, at 48, he'll spend entire afternoons at the table working on a single positional shot he's not happy with, potting the same ball hundreds of times until the muscle memory is perfect. Jimmy White once said watching Ronnie practice was frightening because of the sheer intensity. No breaks, no chat, just ball after ball disappearing, while Ronnie mentally calculated angles and speeds. The difference between good players and great players is that good players practice until they get it right. Ronnie practices until he can't get it wrong, even when he's exhausted, distracted, or playing under impossible pressure. That obsessive commitment to perfection is why he makes snooker look easy. He's already played each shot 1,000 times before he faces it in competition. If you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, hit that like button. And if you remember watching Ronnie's 147 live, subscribe, because the next tips show how he stayed on top for 3 decades. Early 2000s, Ronnie's struggling with depression and his game's falling apart. He starts running, 5 miles, 10 miles, marathon distances, and suddenly his snooker transforms. The stamina, the mental clarity, the ability to stay focused in hour-long sessions. It all comes from those runs. Watch his matches from 2004 onwards. He's still devastating in the first session, but now he's even more dangerous in the final frames when everyone else is exhausted. While opponents are wilting under the crucible lights, Ronnie's still potting century breaks in the deciding frame because his cardiovascular fitness is off the charts. He said in interviews that running saved his career and possibly his life, giving him an outlet for the demons that were destroying him from inside. Other players rely on natural talent. Ronnie combined natural talent with the fitness levels of a Premier League midfielder, and the result was a player who could maintain his absolute peak performance longer than anyone else in the arena. Ronnie doesn't need to trash talk opponents. His mere presence does it for him. Watch how he enters the arena. No emotion, no acknowledgement of the crowd, just walking to his chair like he's already won. Then he sits down and looks at his opponent with complete indifference, like they're barely worth his attention. That studied nonchalance is devastating to confidence. When Ronnie's making breaks, he never celebrates. Just chalk the cue, sit down, wait for his next visit. The message is clear. This is routine for me, nothing special. Just another day destroying someone's dreams. Younger players have admitted they're beaten before the first ball is struck because playing Ronnie feels like fighting a force of nature. He's mastered the art of winning matches in the dressing room, in the walk to the table, in the way he looks at the balls like they're magnetically attracted to his cue. By the time the match starts, his opponent's already lost half the mental battle. Every coach in Britain teaches percentage snooker. Play safe when there's risk, take the certain points over the spectacular pot. Ronnie ignores all of it. If there's a 40% chance of potting a long red and making a break, Ronnie goes for it every single time. Watch the 2012 World Championship final. Impossible angles, outrageous pots, shots that should have cost him frames, and he makes them all. Ali Carter, his opponent, played textbook safety snooker and got demolished 18-11 because Ronnie's low percentage shots kept going in. The genius isn't just that Ronnie attempts these shots, it's that his skill level is so high that his 40% is better than most players' 80%. He's recalibrated what's possible on a snooker table, proving that if you're good enough, aggression beats caution every single time. This approach terrifies opponents because there's no safe shot against Ronnie. Even when you've left him nothing, he'll manufacture something and punish you for assuming you're safe. Forget the showmanship for a moment. Ronnie's cue action is the most technically sound in snooker history. Straight backswing, minimal head movement, perfect follow-through every single time. Coaches use footage of Ronnie's technique to teach beginners because it's textbook perfection. The kind of action you design on a computer if you were programming the perfect snooker player. Watch him in slow motion. The cue travels on an absolutely straight line. His bridge hand never moves. His body stays completely still, except for the cueing arm. Terry Griffiths once said Ronnie's technique was boring because there was nothing to correct. It was already perfect at 16 and hasn't changed in 30 years. That mechanical consistency means Ronnie can play the same shot identically 1,000 times in a row, which is why he makes impossible pots look routine. Other players have off days where their technique deserts them. Ronnie's technique is so ingrained, so practiced, so mechanically flawless that even when his head's not right, his cueing arm still does exactly what it's supposed to. Crucible theatre, final frame. Everything on the line. This is where Ronnie becomes superhuman. Most players tighten up, start playing safe, letting fear dictate their decisions. Ronnie does the opposite. He becomes more aggressive, more attacking, more willing to attempt the outrageous pot. The 2004 World Championship semi-final against Hendry. Final frame. Ronnie needs snookers. The match looks over. He clears the table with a break that defied physics and breaks Hendry's heart in the process. Sports psychologists talk about clutch performers, athletes who raise their game when it matters most. Ronnie's clutch performances have become the stuff of legend because he genuinely seems to enjoy the pressure, to feed off the tension that paralyses everyone else. When the stakes are highest, when one mistake means elimination, when lesser players are praying just to survive, Ronnie's making maximum breaks and grinning like he's having the time of his life. Everyone remembers Ronnie's attacking brilliance, but his safety play is just as deadly. He just hides it behind the pyrotechnics. Watch any modern final. When Ronnie needs to, he can lock opponents in knots with safety exchanges that leave them absolutely nothing. The difference is that most players use safety to survive. Ronnie uses safety to humiliate. He'll leave the cue ball touching the cushion, the object ball behind a cluster, and his opponent looking at a table with zero options. The 2013 World Championship final against Barry Hawkins, Ronnie played a safety game in the crucial frames that was so suffocating, Hawkins barely got a chance to score. What makes Ronnie's safety different is the intent. He's not trying to avoid losing, he's setting traps, creating positions where his opponent's only option is to hand back control. It's chess played with billiard balls, and Ronnie's thinking 5 shots ahead while his opponent is still trying to escape the current position. Most snooker players decline after 35. The reflex is slow, the concentration wavers, the hunger fades. Ronnie's in his late 40s and he's winning world championships. How? He completely rebuilt his approach to the game, focusing on economy of movement, smarter shot selection, and letting his experience compensate for any physical decline. Watch 2020, Ronnie versus 2000 Ronnie. The modern version plays fewer shots per frame, but wins just as easily because every shot is calculated for maximum efficiency. He's learned to conserve energy, to pick his moments for brilliance, to win matches in third gear when he used to need fifth. And the 2022 World Championship victory at age 46 was proof that intelligent adaptation beats youthful enthusiasm. Younger players have the stamina and speed, but Ronnie's got 3 decades of pattern recognition and tactical awareness that tells him exactly which balls to pot and which to leave. He's turned aging into an advantage by becoming a smarter, more patient version of the attacking genius he used to be. This is what makes Ronnie fascinating. He's the best player ever at a game he's openly said he hates. He's threatened to quit hundreds of times, walked out of tournaments, called snooker boring, and yet he keeps coming back and keeps winning. That tortured relationship with the sport is actually his greatest strength because it means he's never playing for snooker itself. He's playing to prove something to himself. to channel his demons, to fight whatever darkness he's battling that day. When other players lose motivation because snooker becomes routine, Ronnie stays motivated because he's using snooker as therapy, as warfare against his own mind. The 2020 World Championship victory interview. Ronnie said he'd only entered because he had nothing better to do during lockdown. Most players would be offended by that attitude toward their life's work. For Ronnie, that detachment is liberation. He's deadly precisely because he doesn't care about snooker the way others do, which means pressure can't touch him. Before Ronnie, snooker was methodical, careful, sometimes tediously slow. People respected it, but it wasn't exactly thrilling entertainment. Ronnie made snooker exciting. Suddenly matches had pace, drama, audacious pots that made crowds gasp. He turned snooker from a niche sport into entertainment, pulling in audiences who'd never cared about the game before. The BBC's viewing figures when Ronnie plays are consistently double what they are for anyone else because people tune in, hoping to see something extraordinary. He's proved that technical excellence and entertainment aren't opposites. You can play perfect snooker and still make it exciting, still make crowds roar, still make people who don't understand the game appreciate the artistry. The Rocket didn't just become the greatest snooker player, he became the greatest snooker showman, and he did it while winning everything in sight and making it look easier than anyone else ever has. "1990s snooker was all about machismo. Show no weakness, hide your problems, pretend everything's fine while you're falling apart inside." Ronnie said enough. He talked openly about depression, about therapy, about medication, about the days he couldn't get out of bed, let alone pot a ball. The snooker establishment was horrified. You weren't supposed to admit vulnerability. But Ronnie's honesty gave permission to an entire generation of players to seek help, to acknowledge that mental health matters as much as cue action. When he withdrew from tournaments citing mental health, instead of losing respect, he gained it. Fans and fellow players realised that admitting you're struggling takes more courage than pretending you're fine. The 2006 withdrawal from the UK Championship wasn't weakness. It was strength. A man saying, "I need help," in a sport that had always punished that kind of honesty. Ronnie proved you could be mentally fragile and still be the deadliest competitor on the planet. And that combination of vulnerability and dominance changed how Britain thought about both snooker and mental health. The most intimidating thing about Ronnie isn't his brilliant victories, it's how bored he looks during them. Watch him complete a century break. No fist pump, no smile, just chalk the cue and sit down like he's done something mundane. He's made winning so routine that even maximum breaks don't excite him anymore. That studied indifference is psychological warfare at its finest because it tells opponents, beating you is so easy I can't even be bothered to celebrate. The 2014 Masters Final. Ronnie wins 10-1, compiling multiple centuries, and he looks less excited than someone doing their weekly shop. For opponents, facing someone who treats demolishing you as boring routine is spirit-crushing. You've practiced your entire life to compete at this level, and Ronnie's attitude says it's not even worth his full attention. That's not arrogance. It's a man who's won everything so many times that the actual victories barely register anymore, and that battle-weary indifference makes him more dangerous than any trash-talking ego ever could. Every young player on the circuit now grew up watching Ronnie, and you can see his influence in how they play. Faster, more attacking, willing to attempt shots that previous generations would have considered suicidal. Judd Trump, Kyron Wilson, Mark Selby when he's in full flow. They all learned from Ronnie that aggression works, that entertaining the crowd doesn't mean sacrificing winning, that technical perfection and showmanship can coexist. The China Open, the German Masters, tournaments worldwide, you'll see teenagers playing one-handed shots, attempting impossible pots, trying to generate Ronnie's speed and flair. Some will succeed, most will fail. But the point is that Ronnie expanded what young players think is possible on a snooker table. He didn't just dominate his era, he redefined what future generations would even attempt. The ultimate mark of greatness isn't just winning, it's changing the game so completely that everyone who comes after has to play by the new rules you've established. And that's exactly what Ronnie's done to snooker. Most players celebrate breaking records. It's the culmination of their career, proof they've made history. Ronnie breaks records and shrugs like it was always going to happen. Most ranking titles, most centuries, most maximum breaks. He's got them all, and his reaction to each one is essentially yeah, obviously. That casual attitude toward his own greatness is infuriating to rivals, because it suggests Ronnie always knew he'd achieve these things, that there was never any doubt in his mind. The 2022 World Championship victory that tied him with Hendry's record of 7 world titles. Ronnie's post-match interview sounded like he was discussing what he had for breakfast. No drama, no tears, just, yeah, nice to get another one. For historians trying to contextualize his achievements, Ronnie's indifference is maddening. For opponents trying to compete with him, it's devastating. You're putting everything into chasing records. He acts like he'll break accidentally while barely trying. That's the mindset of someone who genuinely believes he's operating on a different level. And 3 decades of results suggest he's absolutely right. Ronnie's not a people pleaser. He's difficult, moody, sometimes openly contemptuous of tournaments, officials, and even fans. He's walked out mid-match, criticised referees, insulted venues, and generally behaved like someone who doesn't care what you think of him. And yet he's the most popular player in the sport because excellence trumps everything else. Fans will forgive difficult personalities if you're brilliant enough, and Ronnie's so ridiculously talented that his flaws become part of the legend. The genius who can't be tamed, the virtuoso who plays by his own rules. It's compelling precisely because he refuses to perform gratitude or humility. Watch any interview. Ronnie says exactly what he thinks with zero filter, and it's refreshing in a sporting world full of media-trained robots. Authenticity, even difficult authenticity, resonates more than fake niceness. From 5-minute maximum breaks to playing both-handed, from mental health battles to rewriting the record books, Ronnie O'Sullivan didn't just become the deadliest snooker player ever, he changed what deadly even means. Hit subscribe because the next video's already waiting and you won't want to miss it.